All right. Good morning, everybody. Hey, we'll go ahead and get started. We've got just about everybody online. We're just about up to the limit, which we knew was going to happen. So thanks for joining me this morning. My name is Tom Kelly. This is another edition of our lawn care in the 21st century webinar series that we do every winter when most of us are kind of huddled in our offices or in our homes trying to stay warm, except for some of you guys who are down south. How's the temperature treating you guys today? Here in New Hampshire, it was below zero when I went out to the bus stop this morning, so it's awfully cold, and that's one of the reasons why we do a lot of these training sessions and webinars in the off season, right? Yeah, everybody's checking in. Good grief. Jeff, I'm going to single you out. Jeff Britton, one of our B-Safe dealers in Atlanta, Georgia, at 8 degrees this morning. So it's cold. It's cold everywhere. And a couple other from Atlanta too, Jeff. Yeah. Okay. Well, I agree. It's definitely chilly, and it looks like there's a couple of other places around the country that are colder than even we are here in New Hampshire. So that's why we do these lawn care in 21st century webinars in the off season, because we're all sort of huddled up in our offices, in our homes, trying to figure out how to grow our business. So today we're going to start talking about marketing, and we call it marketing to beat the big guys. And I think we'll learn a lot. Before we really get going here, I'll go through the regular routine that I've done the last couple of weeks. We've got replays of the previous LC21 webinars posted at the B-Safe Lawns dealer blog. You can either just go to that domain right there, or you can just go to bsafelawns.com, find your way to the dealer site. You'll be able to click on a tab that says Become a Dealer or something like that. It's not hard to figure out. And then click on Blog. So the previous couple of webinars are posted there. Last week's was pretty good. We had a lot of requests for the replay of it, and so we posted that up pretty quickly. We got pretty fired up for that one. Funny thing is, I thought I was going to make people mad, and I didn't. It's interesting to know that just about everybody on was pretty agreeable with me, so that's a good thing. Today we're going to talk about marketing. Next week we're going to do sort of part 2 to this, which will be about your sales process. So today we'll talk about how to build a marketing plan, and next week we'll talk about how to execute and how to make sales as a result of that marketing plan. They're two very, very different things. And it's important to treat them that way. So for those of you who don't know me, or for those of you who are just jumping on for the first time today, which I don't think there are that many, although our attendance has been so awesome. We're approaching the 100 people online again, which is pretty cool. So I've been in the lawn care business for a long time. Started when I was a kid and have been hanging around since then. And I've done a few things along the way. Currently, our main focus here is the B-Safe Organic Lawn Care Network, where we help lawn and landscape companies implement an organic lawn care program for their customers, and we try to help them grow, and we do some business consulting and business coaching. We're also really involved with a school that we've got called the Organic Lawn Care Institute, which is a New Hampshire certified post-secondary vocational school. We've been working hard on that lately too. So we've got a lot of things going on. We were in Entrepreneur Magazine last summer as one of the disruptors of industry, and if you want to read a little bit more about that, go ahead and Google it, and you can find it. That's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and get rolling. I know most of you have already heard that spiel. So obviously, before I get going, a couple of housekeeping issues. If you have any questions or concerns, or you'd like to tell me something, feel free to type it in. where you guys have already been typing in your weather conditions. That's fine. I appreciate it. If you do have questions, don't hesitate to ask them. If there's something technical going on, if you can't hear me or something's up, let me know, please. I may or may not stop to answer your question. I'll always go back and answer questions when we're done with the webinar. Last week we went an hour and a half. Hopefully we really won't go an hour and a half this week. But we might. Once we get to the conclusion, we'll answer any questions you want to have answered. And hopefully at the conclusion of today's session, we'll all be a little bit smarter when it comes to marketing. So I wanted to start off with sort of what the description of what today's webinar was, because it simplifies it. And I think we can all relate to it. But so as an independent lawn and landscape service, you've said it many times before, they're charging you what? So many of the big lawn and landscape companies are actually marketing companies in disguise, and they have salespeople who are ready, willing, and able to lowball their pricing just to make the sale. In all honesty, it's a real issue, and there isn't just one answer to be able to deal with it. The best way to build your business in that cutthroat pricing culture isn't what you think. It isn't about being the best at customer service or being the best in terms of your results. That's small thinking. So let me touch on that for a minute. A lot of times I can sense fear in a company when they say, "Oh no, I'm not that big. I need to treat every customer extra special, and I've got the best customer service in the industry, and my results are the best compared to True Green." That was a Freudian slip with True Green. I didn't even mean that, but don't think small like that. You're not the best because of your customer service. It's important to have good customer service. That's a given. Of course you have to have good customer service. Your results have to be good. If you're going to perform a service, if you're not good at it, why bother? That's not even, shouldn't even be part of the argument. So if you want to grow your business while competing with those guys, you have to act like those guys. And I don't mean about just lowball your pricing. Now you have to be competitive. That's fine. You don't want to just lowball the heck out of things. But you don't want to charge so much that you're not going to bring on any customers too. You should be competitive. Today's consumer is all about information and ease of use. That's a typo. And you need to be able to respond to that. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about how to actually sort of become or put yourself in the shoes of those big companies that spend a lot of time and are able to grow their business significantly. And it's not because they offer good customer service. Most of the time they don't. It's not because they offer a great product. It's because they know what they're doing when it comes to marketing. So we always hear me say, analyze, simplify, plan, implement, adjust. And during previous sessions or webinars, we talked about the analyze and simplify part. Let's talk about the planning part today. The planning part is very important. That's what it's all about. We're going to talk about the planning part right here and right now. The implementation of what we plan out is going to be up to you, obviously. We can't do it for you. And let me ask a question, and I welcome your answer here, please. I looked at my question console, and Michael, you stopped me in my tracks. Michael Daly types, "It's gorgeous and warm, 80 degrees. Spring-like weather this week." Thanks for rubbing it in, Michael. We appreciate it. The question is, how many of you spend as much time on marketing as you do on service? Hey, Elena, not Michael. It's Elena, not Michael. The question is, how many of you spend as much time on marketing as you do on service? And that's an extreme question, because obviously I would assume that none of you spend as much time on marketing as you do on service. But how many of you consider the fact that you spend a lot of time or a significant amount of time planning and implementing marketing, a comparable amount of time to service? Very few of you. And if you're going to grow your business and you're going to be successful in terms of trying to grow your business, you have to change that thinking around right now. You have to spend as much time planning and implementing your marketing as you do on planning and implementing your service. So let's start by talking about lawn care marketing synergy, because that's what we want to try to produce by putting together some of these plans. And synergy, especially in marketing, is when things or the interaction of multiple elements in a system come together to produce an effect that could be different or greater than the sum of their individual effects. When it comes to marketing, you must build a plan that generates leads from many sources, not just referrals. I know so many of us depend strictly on referrals to make sales and grow a business. As soon as you expand your lead sources, every one of them is going to work better. So that's where the synergy part of it comes into play here. If you're depending on just one or two sources of leads and you're not proactively generating leads and trying to market your business, those one or two sources of leads will certainly generate some sales. They'll bring some estimates into you. They'll generate some leads. But when you triple or quadruple, or you introduce 5 or 10, or hopefully even 15 sources of leads, you're going to develop some synergy. And that's what we're trying to say here. When those multiple sources come to work together, they're going to produce an effect that's going to be different from and greater than the sum of their individual effects. So once you start putting things together, each one's going to perform better. When you've got 10 different sources of marketing going on, each individual one is going to improve just because there are other ones to support it as well. So before we start really getting into how to make it happen, we really need to determine the difference between marketing and sales. We're not talking about sales today. We're talking about marketing. We're going to talk about sales next week. We're going to talk about how to capitalize on the marketing we're going to learn about this week. But it's important that we know the difference. We need to know the difference between sales and marketing. So let's talk about a couple of key points when it comes to differentiating the two. On an aside, guys, these pictures that I put up here, when I did this, when I put together this webinar, I had no pictures. The visual was really cruddy, so I just started firing up pictures of lawns on there. So hopefully, that's not somebody's house right there. Planning. When it comes to marketing, planning is all about identifying your demographic, determining the future needs of your demographic. You have to identify those things and who's going to buy a service. When it comes to sales, you have to make sure that the demand of that demographic matches the services that you provide. When we're talking about marketing, it's all about identifying who's going to buy your services. Processes. With marketing, you've got to get your company in front of many potential customers. The goal is to appeal to a wide group of people. With sales, the process is a representative of your company in front of one individual. So it's sort of a one-on-one situation. Marketing, not one-on-one, one to many. Your marketing focus is all about how to appeal to that demographic's emotions with your programs, products, or services. This is tricky. Your focus has to be how to identify how you appeal to your demographic's emotions. And when it comes to lawn care, it's kind of an emotional thing, right? It's somebody's home. It's sort of their identification of who they are. That's whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Sometimes, somebody feels like the nicer their property is or the nicer their lawn is, the happier they are. When it comes to sales, your focus is about hitting goals. Your marketing timeline has to be a long-term effect. We're talking about a long cycle. How do we get in front of that demographic on a repeat basis? Let's get in front of them through many different channels. With sales, we're talking about making a sale right now in the moment. Marketing is about being in front of people over the course of a long cycle. With marketing, your strategy is about pulling people in to what you want to get in front of them. It's not just going to happen automatically, and it's changed so much in recent years. The yellow pages doesn't work anymore. Sales is a push-pull type thing here. Sales is kind of, almost in a way talking somebody into why they should use your service or why they should buy your products. Marketing's pulling people, creating an audience. Sales is pushing through, making the sale. Your concept with marketing is big. You have to think wide. You have to think vast. You almost want to try to think infinite if possible. With your sales, it's narrow and in the moment. You want to make that sale as a result of your marketing. So your marketing has to kind of appeal to that demographic on a much, much larger scale. It's harder to put your finger on that. And finally, your priorities when it comes to these two things is your marketing has to be an identifiable cycle. Sales, again, is sort of in the moment. Make the sale now. And when it comes to lawn care sales, you guys, we really need to understand the difference between no and no, not right now. Because so often when you're doing your marketing and trying to generate sales for lawn care, you have such a small window that you're trying to do it before that customer is ready to buy. And you just want to be in front of them. Your identity. With marketing, it's about the construction and the development of your brand's reputation and identity. With sales, it's about meeting an acute need through personal or impersonal interaction, one-on-one. The ability to meet that identity or to meet that need in the moment. So the point here with the difference between sales and marketing, and the reason I wanted to start with this, and I know it's not exactly as fun as last week when we were screaming about, you know, pesticides and organics. This is much more of a sort of a business-oriented sort of topic. But there's an enormous importance in your understanding of the difference between your marketing program and your sales program. They're two different things. They're two divisions. In a large company, they're going to be two different departments, right? And the challenge is going to be, how do we build a bridge between the two? Sales and marketing are two completely different departments in your organization. For most of us, or for many of us, those departments are filled with the same people. They're groups of people doing the same thing. For the smaller companies, they're even the same one person. Even at that point, though, you guys, you have to understand that they're totally different. Marketing generates leads. Sales generates revenue. Marketing is going to generate leads and estimates and quotes. It's going to get you in front of people. Sales is a much more acute process. It's closing what you've developed as a result of marketing. If you don't understand this, you're not going to succeed, or you're not going to succeed to the level in which you can succeed if you don't, or if you do have a firm understanding of this. Can we build a bridge between the two? Of course we can. Absolutely we can. That's why we're here. So before we determine how to cross the sales bridge, how's that for a metaphor? We're all about metaphors. We need to understand how to plan that marketing strategy. The marketing strategy, not your sales process, the marketing strategy. And there are certain elements of that have to fit into that plan, and you need to understand each and every single one of them. So let's kind of figure out what those keywords are. Let's define them. Let me back up a little bit here too. When we talk about how to beat the big guy, when we talk about how to compete with the big guy, obviously most of the time we're talking about TruGreen or some of the other large competitors that tend to steal your customers because a lot of times they lowball the price, but it's because they're able to get in front of them. They make a significant and strong point to get in front of your customers. If a customer's out or a potential customer's out looking to get an estimate, they're obviously going to find the big guys. Hopefully they're going to find you too. But because of their processes, the big guys are going to get to them quickly, and they're going to just stay on them until they actually make a purchase. I've asked this question on these webinars before, but is anybody on the call worked for some of the big companies? Like TruGreen, there has to be some of you who've worked for TruGreen before, or even the big maintenance companies too. I kind of tend to veer towards just fertilization, but that's not all we're talking about here. We can be talking about maintenance and construction and landscaping and everything else. Some of you, yeah, Brickman Group, right? Okay, so that would count. So a lot of you, how about anybody work in sales for those people? Scott's franchise, yep. Joe worked directly in the sales department at TruGreen in Ohio. So you understand how the emphasis is huge. That sales room really has no concern or care about the actual production that's going to take place as a result of their efforts. It's an obsession-driven sort of process to make as many sales as possible. Now, everything comes from planning. Everything that happens in that room, everything that happens with that campaign comes as a result of planning that somebody somewhere has put together. We got a direct mail piece from True Green here the other day, and I was going to talk about that today, and I forgot. That's not good planning at all. So you got a leg up on them. We are a business, and we're at 3 degrees and snow covered. Direct mail's not super effective this time of year, especially at an office park. So my point here is that we need to put together a plan. We need to plan on how we're going to then implement our sales program. This is all assuming that we're in growth mode here, and you should be. It's a great opportunity. You're up and running. Let's grow, right? So we're going to talk about a couple of definitions that are going to fit directly into your marketing plan. Not your sales cycle, not your sales systems, your marketing plan. We're going to talk about your core service. Some of this sounds familiar. There might be an overlap with a couple of previous webinars. We'll define cancels and cancel percent. Sales, revenue per customer, round revenue, optional or supplemental services, and gross sales. We're going to put together a plan that's going to help you implement a marketing program. We're not going to talk about the expenses as a result that are related to those sources. We're not going to talk about how much money you're going to make as a result of that. That's a completely different topic, and we could spend, tons of time on that too. We're going to assume that you've got something budgeted for marketing, and backing up again, back to previous webinars and sort of instruction, a lot of that revenue that's going to get put into your marketing plan this year is as a result of your renewal plan or renewal program the end of last year. So for those of you who haven't been along for the ride, what we always want to try to do is have a renewal program in November and December to generate prepay revenue to parlay into our marketing plan. It ain't free. Let's run through some of these definitions pretty quickly, and then we'll go ahead and we'll actually legitimately build a marketing plan. Your core service is the one thing or job that you'll do all year long. It's your specialty and the service from which all other jobs or services will be born sold. Can anybody figure out what the heck I might have been trying to say when I typed born sold? Because I have no idea. That is a typo that doesn't even make sense. But your core service would be lawn care fertilization, would be mowing, right? Would be maintenance. Some of you do irrigation installation. It's what your company is all about, what your company's identity is. The one thing that you're trying to do every day of the year. Remember was it the last webinar or 2 webinars ago when we were talking about simplify, and we said print every service that you did last year and whittle that thing down? Because if you've got more than 15 services on there, you're way too complicated. You've got too many moving parts. Your core service is the one thing that you do well. It's your identity. It's the one thing that you want to continue to do all the time. Cancels. Now, these definitions seem pretty simple, but you'll see why we want to make sure that we know what we're talking about because we're going to build them into a plan. Any customer who discontinues your core service during the course of the year is a cancel. And I don't recommend performing other services for customers who aren't subscribed to your core service. So a cancel is somebody who just obviously cancels, but somebody who cancels your main identity, your core service. Your cancel percent is an important figure, and your cancel percent is the percent of customers who cancel your core service in a calendar year. It's your cancels divided by your cancels plus your current customer count. These are important numbers. Your number of cancels in a calendar year divided by the number of cancels plus your current customer count is going to give you cancel percent. For those of you who say, I have no idea what these numbers are, I'll defer back to previous webinars where we say, if you don't know what these numbers are, you need to implement a plan to make sure you can figure it out for next year. And all that revolves around having a CRM. You have to have a software program that's going to generate these reports for you. If you don't have one now, find one. Okay, get one, because when you're doing the planning process next year, it's going to be 100 times easier to be able to do it when you know these numbers. So your cancel percent is cancels divided by cancels plus current customer count. A sale is any new customer who hires you to perform your core service. A new sale is what we're going to try to generate, obviously. Your revenue per customer is how you're going to determine what your projections are. So the average amount of revenue that a customer pays your company to perform your core service. Your revenue divided by the number of customers equals your revenue per customer. So if you do $100,000 in mowing and you've got 100 customers, I'm just doing easy numbers, your revenue per customer is $1,000. That's an important number. That's an important metric we're going to use in our planning process. And our planning process, again, you guys, revolves all around trying to be able to put together a strategy that's going to help you make more sales. So as dry as this might sound right now, it's all going to make sense shortly. A couple of people asking me about what CRM I recommend. We talked about that on a previous webinar, but we brought up Service Autopilot as one of our favorites. A couple of people brought up some of the more old-fashioned ones like Clip, Q Express. There are some newer ones that are just sort of service business like Jobber. Real Green is common in our industry, but we usually typically tend to gravitate towards Service Autopilot, my favorite. Lawn Pro, yep, there's lots out there, but you need one. Your round revenue is the number of projected customers multiplied by your revenue per customer. So again, your round revenue, the number of projected customers, which will be determined by sales and cancels, the number of projected customers you're going to have multiplied by revenue per customer, which is your average. Your optional or supplemental services. Those are services that you provide to your core customers, and it's a function of marketing and then sales to generate as much possible revenue from those optional services that are sold to your core customers. This is all about trying to put together a clean plan. You don't want to sell everything to everybody because you'll never know what to project. You need to have a group of core customers that you're then going to sell supplemental services to so that we're able to project and predict what we're going to do for revenue, how many sales we're going to need to make. Your gross sales, finally, is your round revenue plus your optional or supplemental revenue. That's going to be your projected gross sales. Now, why are we going through this entire exercise? Why am I boring you to death with these definition numbers? Because if we don't know what we're talking about, we're not going to be able to put together a good strategy. The question is, how are we going to make this all come together? Are we ready to make it come together? Any questions? Don't worry, you don't have to write it all down. I'll repost this. I'm recording it, and I'll post it at the BSafe blog there. And if you want a copy of the PowerPoint, I can send it to you too. But that's the thing too. Let me stop for a minute. It's kind of a lot of information that we're jamming into a very, very short period of time. And I've mentioned a couple times, it's not exactly an invigorating topic to figure out what all these things are. It's more fun, like last week, to rant and rave. But you're only going to be able to rant and rave if you're running a good business. And the only way you're going to run a good business is if you make sales. And the only way you're going to make sales is if you're organized. And the only way you're going to be organized is if you understand what the heck you're doing. And that's what we're talking about here. So these definitions and this planning process is important. Okay? So if it seems like a lot or if it's overwhelming, just, it's important, and I can absolutely send you this information, or I'd be happy to talk to you about how I can help you do it for your business too, although we're about to do that. How are we going to make this all come together? So now we've got some definitions. We kind of know what we want to do. We've identified our core service. We have some stats. What are we going to do to make this all come together? So let's talk about some very specific things you're going to do to make it come together. The first thing you need when it comes to marketing, and very few companies actually follow through with this, especially the smaller to mid-sized ones, because it's an expense that almost seems hard to justify, but trust me on it. You need a list. Your list should be comprised of every potential customer in your market. Remember we were talking about demographic. Who's your demographic? Identify your demographic. It's the job of marketing to identify who the people are that could potentially purchase your service. Understand who those people are. Your demographic should include single-family dwelling units only. And those single-family dwelling units should be chosen with a particular home value and a particular household income. Your list should not be comprised of trailer parks, condominiums, or apartments. So determine what your demographic is. Can everybody hear me? A couple people typed in that they've lost the sound. Can you guys verify that you can hear me? Okay. Okay, good. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. If it happens again, please tell me. So your list. You need a list. You need to identify the demographic. You need to identify the relative income of that particular family unit. You need to identify the house value of people who are going to buy your services. Don't waste your time trying to sell your services to people who aren't going to buy them. The first and most important part of this process is to identify who those people are and then purchase a list of those people. And every year, yes, it's an initial investment. Yep. It's definitely an initial investment. A couple people keep saying they keep losing the sound. I don't know if it's them or is it me. Can Dick or Scott or Jeff or anybody in the office verify or not verify that it's me or somebody else? Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Sorry. Buy a list. It's an initial investment, right? So you need to find a list company. And at BSafe we work with a list company, but that's not necessarily important right here. You can Google list company and purchase a list of your demographic to make sure you know who you're going to sell your services to. Every year you're going to update that list. Every year you're going to update your marketing universe. People move, people get divorced, people die. Not everybody is living in the same house every single year. So the initial investment is only that. It's an initial investment. It's not something that you're going to have to continue to do every year. Well, a list company will take your existing list, compare it to new information, mash them together, and sell you the records that have changed. So it doesn't cost a lot after that first year. Your list should live happily in your CRM. It's what's called your marketing universe. And with most CRMs, there's a place for it. This is a common thing to do, right? So your list should live very, very happily in your CRM. A couple questions here. The cost of the list is usually in the neighborhood of, depending on the size of your list, maybe 4, 5, 6 cents per record. So it's not really expensive, but it's not a gimme either. And yeah, so you should identify the zip codes or the towns in which you want to service. And you know how I feel about that. You have to stay pretty close. Population density is important. You don't want to be driving all over creation to spray a lawn or mow a lawn. You want to identify your zip codes, your towns that you want to service, and then yeah, you buy who lives in those houses. That's it. It's very basic. So then you upload that list into your CRM. It's called your marketing universe. So now we know who we're going to sell our services to. What do we do next? This is the synergy we were talking about, you guys. We have to be as diverse as we possibly can with the lead sources that we implement. We can't just depend on referrals, and I know so many of us depend on referrals to grow our business. And yes, a referral is a great lead source, and it certainly is. It's a great way to grow your business, but it should be one of many. And the more sources you've got out there, and of course it's all a function of budget too, and I took the easy way out, and I early on said I'm not worried about budget. I got a rich uncle who just gave me a lot of money to grow my business, so it's easy for me to say. That's not true, by the way, but I'm not worried about budget. Hopefully I had a very strong renewal program last year, and I've got a lot of cash flow, and I know exactly what I'm going to spend. We can talk about how to budget, that kind of stuff later on if you want. But for now, lots of questions. Whenever you hear me pause like that, it means I'm reading questions, and they come in pretty quickly, so forgive me. So let's not just depend on referrals anymore. Let's depend on lots of different sources, okay? Here's a whole bunch of them. You know, we could do a whole 60 minutes on each one of these, and it probably would make sense to do it, right? It wouldn't hurt to talk about every single one of these. Maybe we'll kind of glaze over them very quickly, but referrals right at the top of the list. Referral, you need a referral program. You've heard me kind of rage about this before. Don't just assume it's going to happen. Implement the program that's going to generate referrals. Yeah, everybody tells their brother and their sister that you do a great job. Word of mouth, you know, is a great start. But yeah, it does usually sort of peter out. Word of mouth marketing is hard to track. It's important. It's about your branding, right? It's about your customer service. It's about the way you react to your existing customer base. Word of mouth is important, but it's not gonna help you compete. Referral is a lead source that's important. You need a program to implement it, but it's not the only thing. We've got reinstate. Some of the best sources for for new sales are your previous customers. People who've used your service before are people who are going to use your service again. You're going to be really surprised at how many people actually didn't want to cancel forever. They just wanted to kind of hold off for a while. We saw that in lawn care a lot at Lawn Dog. A lot of times at the end of the year, we'd call or contact our canceled customers, and a decent percent would say, yeah, man, I didn't want to cancel all the way. I just wanted to hold off. You know, we were going away, or, you know, we were short on money, something like that. So reinstates are always a very, very important part. Pre-qual, that's a fancy way to say rejects. People who you've done estimates for in the past, and they said no thank you. Instead of calling it a reject, we call it a pre-qualified lead. That's one of your best sources of marketing. So I'm going to go back again to the CRM system. Every single time you do an estimate, it needs to be updated and tracked appropriately. So you need to have a system that's going to allow you to do that. If you don't know how many rejects you had last year, this is not going to work real well for you. You need to keep track of all this stuff. Direct mail, we've had a few people typing in direct mail here as a great lead source. And as much as direct mail's kind of changed in the past, it's kind of coming back. And a lot of the big companies still depend on direct mail as a really, really important part of their marketing campaign. We've had somebody type in an interesting point here about direct mail, about your list. So if you're sending direct mail to your list, if the names or addresses are incorrect on your list, you're just wasting money. You're tinkling money out the window. So the way that you fix that, Tom who asked the question, how do I make sure that I'm mailing the right pieces to the right people? That's updating your market file. Should do it twice a year, but at least before you do, you should do it before your direct mail campaign. You talk to your list company, say, I've got my marketing universe, I need to update it. It's called list hygiene, okay? It's called updating what you've currently got. So people who die, you don't want to mail them. People who moved, you don't want to mail them. New homeowners who've moved in, you do want to mail them. So, Tom, you'd only really want to talk to any list company and say, I need to do some list hygiene. I need to update my market file, and they know exactly what you're talking about. A lot of people typing in about email, too, and yeah, that certainly can be a huge part of it. It has to be a good lead source. My favorite email program is MailChimp. If you don't have a MailChimp account, you're crazy, because it's free up to, I think, 2,000 contacts. I'll run through these real quick. You know, cancel mailing, reject mailing, those cancels and rejects we just talked about. Once a year, you put an offer in the mail, a proposal, 1% of them will turn into sales every single time without doing anything. 1% of them will come back as a sale. Now, 1% is not a lot, but we're putting together many, many lead sources that are trying to kind of create synergy and build, you know, a whole sales campaign. Social media, lots of companies do door knocking campaigns. The old saw truck lead source. How many times do you get a phone call that says, hey, I saw your truck driving through my neighborhood, can I get an estimate? You have to keep track of those so that when you plan for next year's campaign, you know exactly how many to expect. Landscaper, if you're just a lawn care service, I was talking to one of our applicators up in Maine yesterday who's planning a really, really, really big program to help existing landscapers who sub out their work to sub it out to him or to work on a referral program with landscapers. Pay-per-click advertising, telemarketing, internet searching, just basic SEO, home shows. I don't love home shows, but some, you know, in certain markets it does work pretty well. The old driveway packet routine was something that an acquaintance of mine in Pennsylvania tried. This is going to sound crazy, but it's true. They just loaded up, you know, plastic bags like door hanger bags with swag, like pencils with their, you know, the logo on it, magnets, you know, a couple things like that. And they drove around and threw them in people's driveways. And yeah, believe it or not, it works, right? And as long as you track it and test it and know exactly how well it's working, you can repeat it. New homeowner lists, print ads, Home Advisor, which lots of you guys use now, which is Service Magic. There's the email blast routine up there. Event advertising, we've got companies doing radio advertising, flyering, which is just door hanging, walking door to door and putting flyers on people's doorknobs. Some companies do television advertising. So here's a long list of potential lead sources. Not just referrals, right? We're not just talking about referrals. So at BeSafe, real quick, what we've done, sometimes to help kind of take the sting off some of the cost associated with these things, at BeSafe what we do is we kind of pool all of our resources. We've got, you know, 100 locations that as a group we're able to negotiate good pricing. And this year we're doing a great direct mail campaign associated with pearls. Does anybody know what a pearl is? A personalized URL. So we're sending out direct mail to homeowners with a website on there that says go to, you know, joesmith.bsafe.com. They automatically have curiosity. They want to go to it. It's a landing page with their own personal information on it, and they request an estimate. Pay-per-click advertising is easy as long as you're doing it right. We work with a company that drives the price way, way down to generate leads. Remarketing is a new one. Is a new source that, you know, as a small operator you might not be able to take advantage of. But you ever notice when you're at you know, Facebook or the Weather Channel or a website that's really, really common to go to, the ads that show up on those websites are exactly what you're interested in? Isn't that kind of weird? Well, that's called remarketing, and it's all sort of a strategy based on sites that you visited previously. They're able to identify what your interests are, and then they begin to show you ads based on your interests. Somebody clicks on that ad, it goes to a landing page, and it generates a lead. And referral, obviously referrals are, we've got a great referral program, or I'm working on a great referral program. So there's a little advertisement for BeSafe. How am I doing on time? Not too shabby. So guys, any questions on well, there's lots of questions. Let me kind of look at them real quick. We're talking about marketing. We're not talking about sales. We're talking about planning. We're talking about knowing our numbers. We're talking about knowing our definitions. We're talking about building some confidence on what we're going to try to implement. Let's build a marketing plan, shall we? So I posted a file that you can download at this address. Again, if you want to just go to the Be Safe Lawn site, besafelawns.com, click on Become a Dealer or something. It'll bring you to the dealer site, and then click on Blog, and it'll bring you to it. Maybe I can do it right now myself to show you how to do it. Yep. This marketing plan worksheet. Right. As I was saying for a minute, guys, we're talking about marketing. Next week's webinar, which I think you can register for right here, by the way. Well, maybe I didn't post it yet, but I will post it, the registration. And if you know us, you know we'll email you. But I'll post the registration for it here. Rats, I forgot to do that this morning. I was on my list of things to do, and I didn't. Next week's webinar will be all about how to convert this week's marketing, and that's as important. So hopefully you'll join me for that. But if you download this worksheet, and you can do it right now too if you want. I've already done it right here. We're going to build a marketing plan. I got 15 minutes to do it. My phone is lighting up with texts, by the way, from existing Be Safe dealers who should be on the webinar. But they're texting me instead. So this worksheet, I'm gonna build a marketing plan right now. Anybody want me to do it for them? Yeah, lots of you guys. All right. I'm just gonna make it up. But I'm gonna show you how easy it can be. It's easy when you don't have to worry about your budget. Beginning count is my core service. I'm going to pretend I'm a lawn care service company, and I have currently 200 customers. My beginning count on January 1st, or today, is 200 customers. I'm going to go to sales. I'm going to write a plan to make 200 sales. I know a lot of you guys have seen me do this song and dance before, and if so, sorry, deal with it, but we'll work it out. I want to make 200 sales this year. That's going to be a total of 400 customers. I know as a result of following my numbers from previous years or from last year that I'm going to cancel 15% of them. 15% of my customers are going to cancel. And in lawn care, that's a pretty low number. Think about True Green's going to cancel 50% of their customers or more. As a local or smaller company, you should be able to keep 85% of your customers from year to year. 15% of them aren't going to be happy, are going to die or move. 15% of them are going to leave you. So 400 times 15% is 60. My new count is going to be 340. I'm going to have 340 customers. Because I started with 200, I'm going to make 200 sales, 60 of them are going to cancel. So I looked at my numbers, my stats, and I know my revenue per customer from my core service, which is fertilizer, my fertilization service. Now this can be within a bigger company too. You might be a construction company, you might be an installation company, you might be a full service landscape company. You can still build this marketing worksheet based on one particular division. So let's say I'm a maintenance company and I have a lawn care division. That's what we're working on. My revenue per customer, which is my core service, how much revenue I've generated over the course of the year through that core service, is $400. 340 times 400 is going to be $136,000 in round revenue of my core service, okay? Every time I do this, or sometimes when I do this, somebody says, why don't you have this built into a spreadsheet? And the reason I don't, believe it or not, is because I like to do the math. I like to do the math with it. And my math is incorrect, somebody's telling me, right? 400 times 15% is 60. My math is not incorrect. I started with 200 customers. I'm going to make 200 more sales. That's a total of 400 customers. And I know that 15% of them are going to cancel. That's 60. So my math is right. Nerdy, nerdy, nerdy. I'm not going to do the math here in the interest of time, but I know that based on previous information, my spring aerations will be less than 1%. Let me get my highlighter here. I always take these numbers I have based on historical data. Less than 1% of this number I'll sell in spring aeration. So just to do that, it's going to be about $1,200. And I'm going to fill this out all the way through. These are my supplemental or optional services right here, guys. This is what we talked about. Remember, these are the definitions we talked about early on. Beginning count, cancel sales, new count, revenue per customer, round revenue, optionals, and supplementals. We're building the beginning stages, the beginning bones of what we're going to have to do to get to where we want to be. Planning process. Everybody keeps telling me that cancels is 30, not 60. Let me explain, and I'm glad you're asking. It's total cancels, not just new sales cancels. I started out with 200 customers. I'm going to make 200 sales. That 200 plus 200 is 400 people will use my service this year, right? 400 people, and my cancel rate's 15%. 400 times 15% is 60. So it's the difference between, and there really isn't a difference. You can go as far as trying to figure out what your new sale customer rates percent's going to be and what your old customer percent's going to be. I just throw them all together. So I'm going to take 60 cancels on those 400 customers, leaving me a new count of 340. My revenue per customer is 400. This is my round revenue. My optionals, which I'll be able to sell to my core service people, can be based on these numbers here. Remember, go back to the simplify part of things. If you've got 20 things on this list, back it off, man. You only want as few moving parts as possible. So now I know that we need to make 400 sales. AFT is ant, flea, and tick control. This is in my lawn fertilization program. I'll do spring aeration, ant, flea, and tick control, grub control, limestone, fall aeration, and fall seeding. Lots of other companies would add in like top dressing, mosquito control, other services that are worth doing. And again, going back to our simplification process, as long as they fit into your business, continue to sell them. So now I need to make 300 sales, 200 sales rather. How am I going to make 200 sales? I always forget to erase that. We got to make 200 sales, guys. What are we going to do? Let's make 200 sales. So first thing I'm going to do is look at my CRM and look at my reports from last year and find out how many referral leads I got. See sort of a pattern here? Without this information, this is hard to do. You need to track all these things. I can very easily look at reports and see that last year I generated, because of my referral program, 100 referral leads. I also know that I closed those leads at 70%. You should always close referral leads pretty high. So actually, let's back it off because it would be too easy. I've generated 50 leads by referrals. I closed those at 70%. I'm going to make 35 sales through referrals this year. I also am going to do an AdWords campaign, significant pay-per-click campaign. I'm going to invest enough to generate 200 leads through my AdWords campaign. And I know that as a result of my tracking last year, I'm going to sell those at 30%. I'm going to make 60 sales. So right away, I'm at 95 sales. I got to make 200. How else am I going to make? I need 105 more. I'm going to do a small direct mail campaign, okay? I know that if I send out 5,000 pieces of direct mail and I get a 1% response, I'm going to generate 50 leads. I'm going to close those. I know I closed them at 62% last year. That's going to make, what did I say, 50 leads, 50 times 0.62, 31 sales. Man, it's adding up. It's adding up. So now I'm up to 91 plus 35, 126 sales. I need to find 74 more sales. Oh, I got all these cancels. I can do a cancel mailing. I'm going to mail out 500 cancel. Well, no, that's silly. Probably don't have 500. Over the last couple of years, I've had 200 customers cancel. 1% is going to come back. That's only 2. That might not be worth it. I don't have enough cancels to make that work yet. Oh, saw truck. That's an easy one. I look at my reports. The saw truck generated 15 leads last year. It's going to make 11 sales. You guys get the picture here? You guys get what I'm doing? You know, I do this a lot, and it seems sort of, easy to me because I've always done it. This is kind of what we specialize in at BSafe. We spend a ton of time working on these kind of deals, and but I find that so very few of you guys actually go through this process. And going way back to the beginning of my first sort of couple slides is when I asked how many people spend as much time on sales and marketing as they do on production. I know that most of you don't, but I know if some of you did, it wouldn't be so difficult to grow. You know, and it's not something that you need a ton of dough to do it. It's good to have money budgeted to do it. You can make it happen. My home advisor, oh man, they generated, I got 40 leads from them last year. Your closing percent on these is going to be different for every, let's just say we're going to close them at 30%. As long as your sales process is good, there's another 12 sales we just made. What are we up to now? 60, 72, 82, 83, 13, 14, 24, 34, 44, 145. I'm going to have to get a couple more in here. Let's do, we've got a good list. We've got a good list. Our email blast, if I look at last year's numbers, I generated 50 leads from that. I closed them at 40%. 20 more sales. I'm gonna stop the foolishness here because you guys get my picture. You guys know what I'm trying to tell you to do. Okay, so you build your plan. Start here. Figure out how many sales you want to make, where you want to be, how you want to grow, how much that's going to generate. Determine how you're going to make those. Try to spread it around as much as you can. And then you go down here. And we're at an hour, so I won't actually work this out. But you plan out these leads that you're going to generate here, guys. You're going to dump them into the calendar. And then as part of your sales process, and that's what we'll talk about next week, is how to actually make sure that you execute, you implement, and then of course you adjust. Spread out those leads by month. And in most cases, if you've got a decent CRM and you've kept track of all this stuff, you're going to be able to know when it's going to happen. The same thing that happened last year is going to happen this year. And in this case, looks like we were generating 1,200 leads when last time I did this worksheet. So that's a fair amount of leads. That's a lot of sales. Spread them out, make it happen. So let me go back to here. Put my contact information up. There's lots of questions, and I'd be happy to ask them. We're at an hour. We've gone an hour. And I'll go for as long as it takes to answer the questions. But before I kind of go into questions and answers, if any of you have any interest in talking further about this, or you'd like me to send you the PowerPoint presentation that I did, contact me here or give the office a call. if anybody has any interest in joining the Be Safe Network, and this is the kind of stuff we do all the time, especially in the off season, we actually help our people implement these kind of deals. You can talk to somebody here about joining the network. So let's hit some questions. So I'm going to go from the bottom up. What do I think about billboards? So billboards is actually something that some of our members of the network have done before, and I don't know how much they paid for them, but billboards are more about branding than they are about marketing. Billboards are more about developing your brand recognition. $600 a month, that's not bad, actually. Actually, that's a pretty good investment. I think I'd be willing to drop $600 a month on a big billboard as long as I know that the traffic is significant. The traffic is enough that people are going to see me. So that's going to generate brand recognition. You're not going to be able to have a real good call to action on a billboard, but you're going to be able to have people see who you are, and that's going to support your other sources of marketing. So say you do a pay-per-click ad, right? Somebody might search for lawn care, see you sitting there and say, hey, that's a dude with a billboard over on Elm Street. I'll tell you what, though, Lucas, a couple other people are checking in saying that they've used billboards and didn't have very good results. But again, my point is with that is that you probably won't see results directly from the billboard, but you'll see some of your other lead sources closing percents rise up, increase. $600 a month I could probably justify. $2,000 a month I couldn't justify. Elena asks, will this be easy to market with smaller lawns, and do I recommend particular demographic to go after first? Bigger lawns, smaller lawns? That's a good question. You kind of have to go with what you got, first of all, right? So you can't change your market. You can't change your demographic. If you live in Nebraska in a rural community where all the lawns are huge and 10 miles apart from each other, you know, what are you going to do, move? If you live in an urban setting where there are a lot of people living in a small area with small lawns, then that's what you've got too. I've always kind of preferred working in densely populated areas where the lawns are small. You're going to be more profitable that way. You have more people to sell your service to as well. So I'd identify homeowners, again, single-family dwelling units, people who own their homes with a certain income. You know, if somebody is living, you know, below the poverty line, they're not apt to purchase your service, right? So, you know, and it's different everywhere. The cost of living is obviously different from place to place, so certain wealth represents certain different things in different places. The size of the lawn is kind of dependent on where you are. So I don't know if you can change that too much. Lots of questions about factoring in costs associated with that marketing. And for what we did today, I did not factor in the costs, but you know, we could certainly talk about that another time. Some sources of marketing cost a lot more than others. Direct mail is an expensive one, but it's very predictable. The referral program is not very expensive, other than what you're paying as you know, as a reward. So you have to go through the process of budgeting to be able to make sure that you've got enough money to do what you want to do. It all starts last fall with your renewal process. When you renew your existing customers, get some prepay revenue through the door so that you can use that money to pay for marketing. You know, it's all part of the business cycle. It's all part of the business cycle. Okay, good question about social media. How do I generate leads with social media? And I'm not going to lie, I don't know. I haven't been able to figure that out yet. Now, there's paid social media, and that might fall under pay-per-click more so than, you know, than social media. So if you're on Facebook, you can pay to have your advertisement show. I mean, perhaps we could, we could spend some time on that tomorrow, next Friday when we're doing the sales process. How to actually get that ad posted on people's Facebook walls. You have to have a good call to action. You have to have a good offer. And you have to get people's attention, and that's not always easy. In terms of just having a Facebook page or a Twitter page, that's branding, not marketing. That's building your brand. And I don't know that it's possible to generate leads just from having a Facebook page. You could run offers on your Facebook page, but a lot of times that has to be a paid source to get in front of many other people. I think, unfortunately, for companies like ours, it's a pain in the neck, right? Your lawn and landscape company kind of needs to have a Facebook page. You have to, because say somebody searches for you, they go to your Facebook page and there's been no update since 2011. That's going to reflect really poorly on you. They're going to say, oh, this company's out of business, or they don't want business. So it's something that you have to actually do to build your brand recognition. Is it going to execute lead generation? I don't think it is. It's going to quickly become a cost of doing business as opposed to a lead generator. D, good. I'm glad you brought that up. So a lot of Angie's List and a lot of those other sort of reputation management type programs like Angie's List. At BSafe, we're dealing with Porch. Porch is a new service that generates leads for you. Local searches, you need a Google local page. What's the one I'm not thinking of? Yelp. Yelp is a big one. Service Magic, the one we just talked about, which is now Home Advisor. I've heard good things and bad things about Angie's List, and I know, Dee, you've brought up good things often. So look into that one, you guys, too. You've got to, anywhere you can get a free listing, start there, obviously, and then move up. So here's a question about marketing through your own website. Good question. So how do you, that's an enormous topic. How do I market through my own website? Starts off with having people find your website. And having people find your website organically, that means without paying for it, that's called search engine optimization. Now we're talking about things that go beyond the dirt that's under our fingernails, right? And we joke about that in the network a lot too, is that, we're landscapers, we're lawn care people, but we need to figure out some of these complex things. And SEO is one that you're always going to, in most cases, want to hire somebody to do for you. Search engine optimization is based on keywords and content and constantly updating your blog and always having fresh information on your website. The more information and more SEO type things you do, the more often you're going to come up in a search. When somebody searches for lawn care or, whatever you're doing, lawn mowing, you want to rank on Google on the first page. That's not something that happens overnight. Most times you need to hire somebody to take care of that for you. You can have paid search. That's what pay-per-click is. That's what AdWords is. Pay-per-click is when somebody searches for a certain keyword, your ad's going to show up. Now, once they land on your website, you better have a pretty good strategy in place for them to be able to request an estimate, right? So you're going to want to have lead capture there, contact us. Sometimes you want a pay-per-click ad to go directly to a landing page that has lead capture with an offer as opposed to just landing on your home page. So there's a lot that goes into that. MailChimp is the question is what's MailChimp? MailChimp's like Constant Contact or any one of those email blasting services. I've always liked MailChimp because it's easy to use. It's easy to design things that look pretty good. So you always need to get people's email addresses. Anytime you talk to anybody anywhere, you need to build your list. So that's another topic, list building. How do we constantly develop our list to be able to market to it? That fits in with social media, that fits in with SEO, it fits in with landing pages. List building is important. You always need a list. Remember, we started out by saying buy a list. Always add to that list emails. So if you have an email campaign, you might send out a newsletter once a month. You might send out an offer every couple of weeks, especially when it's marketing time. You might send out an email blast to everybody on your list that says, if you sign up now, you'll get a free lime treatment, or we'll do your first mowing at no charge, or we'll give you $50 off your spring cleanup. That's even now morphed from just sort of sending special offers to content marketing and being able to get in front of people and give them information that's valuable to them, so that then they in turn begin to trust you, so that even though they may not need to buy your services now, they will need to buy your services at some point, right? And if you've built a relationship with them, if you've given them information that's valuable over the course of time, they're going to automatically think of you. So again, we'll go back to the question, do you spend as much time on your sales and marketing as you do on production? And most of you don't, because it's freaking complicated too, right? It's very, very complicated, and you need to spend more time on it. Well, all of a sudden we're talking about relationship marketing, search engine optimization, and landing pages. And you have to be able to kind of talk about those things if you're going to be in growth mode. And the only way you can talk about them is if you gain some confidence and figure it out. Thank you, Elena. Let me, 12:15, guys, and I'm losing you like, you're dropping like flies, so I'm probably going to wrap up. Let me look at a couple more questions here. And there's a bunch. Tom, I agree with everything you say about Facebook. Facebook is an important part of what you do, and you can actually run promotions through Facebook, have a contest. There are services that you can use that will automate that for you too. I haven't got my head totally wrapped around how to take advantage of social media yet, especially Twitter, and I know everything needs to be more visual, right? In lawn care, we've kind of got boring. Try to introduce more visual and more pictures and things and build that social media aspect of your business, but it's hard to quantify what you're going to get from it. So guys, we're going to do this, we'll replay this webinar on Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock. I'll go ahead and I'll post that information. If you want to watch it again, you can. I'll post a recorded version of it after that. But look for some information from us in regards to how to watch it again. Please join me next week for the follow-up to this, where we execute our sales process based on our marketing campaign now. I spent half the webinar telling you they're two different things, and they are. They're two completely different things. So I'll pitch Be Safe. If anybody has any interest in joining the Be Safe network, get in touch with us here. This is the stuff we talk about all the time, every day. And we help you grow your business. So thanks for joining me today, guys. I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate all your questions. And if you want to follow up with me, please do. Have a good afternoon and stay warm.